I'm a storyteller, and if you can't sleep, this story is good for you. Tell me what time you're watching my video and what country you're from. I upload daily at the same time. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. This story is called Footsteps in the Ceiling. Settle in, get comfortable, let your thoughts drift. I'll take care of the rest. It started on a Thursday. Not a particularly memorable Thursday either. There were no thunderstorms, no flickering lights, no hints from the universe. Just a gray sky, a chill in the air, and the kind of quiet that makes a person pay too much attention to ordinary sounds. For Owen Turner, it was moving day. The kind of day filled with cardboard boxes, dull aches in the shoulders, and the clatter of silverware wrapped in newspaper. He'd found the old farmhouse 2 towns over by accident, a fixer-upper, listed for a price far lower than it should have been. The real estate agent gave him a vague shrug when asked why. Owner passed. Family didn't want it, she said, eyes darting anywhere but his. Still, it had character. Slanted floors, high ceilings, chipped paint on wide windows. An attic that stretched the length of the house. Dusty, sure, and creaky, but private, remote. Good for someone looking to get away from the noise of the world. That night, Owen slept on a mattress directly on the floor of the upstairs bedroom, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes. The wind ticked softly at the glass. Somewhere far off, an owl called out, then silence. Sleep found him easily at first. He woke around 3, not with a jolt or a gasp, just opened his eyes and waited, as if some part of him had already heard it before waking. He lay perfectly still in the darkness, breathing shallowly, listening. Then he heard it. Creak, creak, slow, heavy, above him. The unmistakable sound of someone walking directly overhead, right where the attic was. His mind rushed to find the rational explanation. Mice? Squirrels? Maybe the wood shifted with temperature changes. He closed his eyes, told himself it was nothing. But then it happened again. The next night, and the next. Always around the same time, always those same footsteps. Measured, intentional. A slow pacing back and forth above his bed. He considered telling someone. But who? And what would he even say? Hey, there's walking in my ceiling at night. They'd laugh, tell him to get some sleep. Maybe he needed that. Maybe he was just tired, stressed, imagining things. It wasn't until the 4th night that something changed. This time, the footsteps didn't just pace. They stopped, right above his bed. Owen stared up at the dark ceiling, heart pounding. The boards above him groaned softly under the pressure of something or someone standing perfectly still. He didn't move, didn't breathe, just waited. And then, the softest sound. Not walking, not scratching. It was breathing. Slow, shallow, as if the ceiling itself had lungs. He didn't sleep after that. Morning came with a pale, cloudy light, and Owen stood staring up at the attic door in the hallway. A simple square panel in the ceiling with a fold-down ladder. He hadn't been up there yet. Told himself there was no need. But now it felt personal. He reached up, tugged the string, and the ladder unfolded with a shriek of tired wood. A gust of cold air hit his face as he climbed, flashlight in hand. The attic was empty, just beams, dust, and the hollow quiet of a space that hadn't been touched in years. He swept the light around. No footprints, no signs of animals, nothing. Except for one thing. In the far corner, nearly hidden behind a support beam, was a small, old rocking horse. The paint was faded, the eyes worn smooth, but it rocked slightly, back and forth, ever so gently, as if someone had just left it. He didn't touch it, just stared, and then he left. He didn't sleep that night or the one after, but the footsteps continued. Each time they moved closer to the attic entrance, as if drawn to it, as if something was curious, testing. By the end of the week, Owen began locking his bedroom door. Not that it mattered, because one night he heard the attic ladder creak down, rung by rung, and the sound of slow, deliberate footsteps descending it. He lay frozen, sweat slick on his skin, as the weight of something stepped into the hallway outside his room. The old floorboards groaned under its steps. Then, silence, except for the soft turn of his doorknob. He held his breath. Click, it was locked. But the knob kept turning, slowly, gently. Then it stopped. A pause, and footsteps, walking away. By morning, the attic ladder was folded neatly back into the ceiling. He tried to convince himself he dreamed it, that his mind had become a trap, echoing fear. But each night, the sound returned, closer, more confident. And then things began to change during the day. He'd come back from a walk to find cupboard doors open. Boxes he hadn't unpacked rifled through. The rocking horse, still in the attic, moved positions, always facing him, as if watching. He set up cameras, just an old phone with motion detection, left it in the hallway. The footage caught nothing, but the sounds remained. Sometimes he'd hear soft humming when he passed the attic, a childlike tune, repetitive, off-key. It was wearing him down. And then he saw her. It was just for a moment. He'd gone to the kitchen for water, bleary-eyed, when he glanced up the stairs. There, halfway up, was a girl. Pale skin, tangled hair, wearing what looked like a nightgown from another time. Her eyes were dark, hollow, and fixed directly on him. He blinked, and she was gone. But the feeling stayed. That pressure, like someone was now always in the room, just at the edge of his vision. He tried to leave, packed a bag, got in his car, started the engine, and stopped, because something was standing behind the trees at the end of the driveway, watching. He never left. He tried again and again, but each time, something kept him. A flat tire, lost keys, lights flickering violently when he approached the front door. The house had him. The girl had him. He began to hear whispering in the walls, a language he didn't understand. Some nights, she'd knock on his door. 3 soft knocks, never more. He'd cry sometimes, silently, begging her to leave. And then one night, it all stopped. No footsteps, no breathing, no knocking, only silence. For the first time in weeks, Owen slept soundly, deep, dreamless. He woke to daylight, and in the silence, he allowed himself to believe it was over, until he saw the message scratched into his bedroom ceiling. Just 4 words. I finally came down. Tonight's story is called The Thing in the Mirror. Let me begin. There's something about mirrors that's always been a little unsettling. They reflect the world, yes, but not quite perfectly. There's a delay, almost imperceptible, like the image has to think before it reacts. Most of the time, we don't notice it. Most of the time, it's harmless. But sometimes, just sometimes, something else is watching from the other side. My name is Mara, and until a few weeks ago, I never believed in any of that. I worked as a night cleaner in a historical inn located in a small New England town called Elridge Hollow. It was one of those creaky, overly ornate places with antique furniture and candle sconces, even though no one used candles anymore. The mirrors in that place? Old. Silver-backed, at the kind that fog at the edges and seemed to whisper with memories. One of the mirrors hung in room 212, and it was unlike the others. Larger. The frame was carved with vines and snarling beasts, almost like it had been meant for a cathedral or some Baroque castle. Guests didn't like room 212. They always asked to be moved in the middle of the night. At first, I thought it was just the atmosphere. The inn had that oppressive quiet, like the walls were listening. My boss, Joan, told me not to worry about it. Old buildings settle, she said, and guests love to scare themselves. But I started noticing something. The mirror, it moved. Not visibly, not like it floated or shook, but things in the reflection were off. Sometimes when I passed by, I'd see something that wasn't there, a shadow where there shouldn't be one, a figure standing just outside the frame. Once, I saw myself blink in the mirror a half second before I actually did. I told myself it was just exhaustion. I worked the graveyard shift, and sleep was a luxury. But the mirror, it kept watching. Even when I wasn't in room 212, I'd feel its eyes on me. I'd walk by in the hallway and swear I saw my own face staring out through the door's crack. It started getting worse. One night, I was scrubbing the floor in the west hallway, and when I looked up, every mirror in the corridor reflected me, except for one. The big one at the end didn't show me at all, just an empty hallway. I got up slowly, my mop still dripping. My reflection should have been there, but it wasn't. I moved left. Nothing. Right. Still nothing. Then the lights flickered. In that brief flash of darkness, something else appeared in the glass. Not me, not even human. Pale skin, hollow eyes, lips too wide and stretched in a cruel smile. And then it was gone. I told Joan the next morning. She looked at me with a tired expression. You saw it, huh? That chilled me more than anything. You know about it? I've worked here 22 years, she said. Every few months, someone sees something. I tell them it's the pipes, the stress, old wiring, and most of the time, they believe me. But it's always the mirrors. Room 212? I asked. She nodded slowly. That mirror's been here since the inn was built. No one knows where it came from. It wasn't in the blueprints. Just showed up one day. Guests complained about dreams, chills, whispers. One even had a nosebleed the moment they looked into it. That should have been my cue to quit. But instead, I felt drawn to it. I began spending more time in 212, alone, just staring at the glass, watching for something. And one night, it answered. I stood in front of it for nearly 15 minutes. At first, nothing happened. Then the light shifted. My reflection darkened slightly, like the bulb above me dimmed just for the image in the glass. Then it smiled, but I hadn't. My breath caught in my throat. I stepped back, and so did the reflection. I leaned in again, it leaned too. But the smile stayed, wrong, crooked, too many teeth. I reached up to touch the mirror, cold, not like normal cold. It felt wet like condensation from breath. The glass rippled, not visually, physically, like the surface had turned to water for just a moment. Then, behind my reflection, something moved. A shape. Gaunt, long arms, black eyes like sinkholes. It leaned close behind my mirrored self. Its mouth open and it whispered a soundless word. I ran. But it didn't stop there. That night, I couldn't sleep. My bedroom mirror was covered with a blanket, as always, but I heard it creak. Just a soft noise like shifting glass. Then came the whisper. Not from my rooms, but from inside my head. A voice that sounded like me, but wrong. Let me in. I ripped the blanket off. The mirror was still. Just me, pale and terrified. But for a moment, just a moment, my reflection smiled. I moved in with my sister the next day. Told her I needed a break, that I was stressed. I left out the part about haunted glass and whispering doppelgangers. For a few nights, things were fine. Then my niece Eliza said something over breakfast. Auntie Mara? Yeah, sweetheart. Why were you crawling on the ceiling last night? I dropped my coffee. My hands shook. What do you mean? I woke up and saw you in the hallway. You looked at me through the mirror. Then you crawled up and away like a spider. My sister laughed it off. Kids have wild dreams. But I knew better. I went back to the inn that night. Told Joan I needed to see the mirror again. She hesitated. It feeds on attention, she said. The more you look, the more it looks back. But I couldn't stop myself. Room 212 felt colder than before. Not just temperature. The air had weight, like I was being watched by hundreds of invisible eyes. The mirror stood silent. Still, I stepped in front of it. My reflection stared back almost innocently. Then the lights flickered, and this time it reached out. A hand, pale, long-fingered, pressed against the other side of the glass. My reflection smiled wider, and the hand pushed through. The glass bulged outward, not breaking, just bending, like elastic. The thing in the mirror was coming through. I screamed and ran, but the hallway mirrors reflected not my panic, but my smiling self, walking calmly, arms at my sides, blood dripping from my mouth. I didn't go home. I stayed in my car that night, mirrors covered, phone camera disabled. Sleep didn't come. In the darkness, my phone screen lit up on its own. The camera app opened. The screen showed my reflection, smiling. And behind me, that thing, always behind me. The next day, I quit the inn, moved out of state, left everything behind. But mirrors are everywhere. Bathrooms, elevators, storefronts, phone screens. And sometimes I catch myself staring too long. Sometimes the reflection blinks first. Sometimes it's not me at all. And every night before I sleep, I hear that whisper again. Let me in. I don't know what it is. A ghost, a demon, a version of me from the other side. But I know it's patient. It waits, watches, and it wants to cross over. And every mirror is a door. So tonight, as you drift off to sleep, be careful when you wake up to get water or check your phone in the dark, because something might be watching you too. And if you hear a whisper that sounds like your own voice, just remember, don't answer it. Don't smile. Don't let it in. Ever. Thank you for listening. If you're still awake, let me know what time it is where you are and what country you're watching from. I upload every day at the same time, so make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss tomorrow's story. Sleep well, if you can.